Well, tonight, retired Supreme Court Judge Justice Atuguba indicts the Apex Court, revealing deep politicization of the country's highest court as he tears into the MPP's protest against the suspension of the Chief Justice, Gertrude Torkonoo.
Unanimous panels always in their favor. That's the democracy they want. That is rubbish. You ordain a dictatorship in place. You have been overthrown through the ballot. Your last citadel is the Chief Justice. You are battling. Hey, if this one falls, we are all out. That is what is happening. Can't be wrong.
Then it will appear that our Supreme Court is politicized.
Certainly.
Details as we analyze how the reconstitution of the panel hearing the injunction application case against the CJ's suspension decided the particular case. This is Top Story, brought to you always by Telecel, connecting energies and holy insecticide spray and coil. Now, tonight, retired Supreme Court Judge Justice William Atuguba has descended heavily on the opposition New Patriotic Party while revealing how the Apex Court has become deeply politicized. He has been tearing into the MPP for their stance on the suspension of the Chief Justice, Gertrude Torkonoo. According to him, the party has lost the moral authority to question how the Supreme Court and acting Chief Justice Bafo Boni handled cases at the court, including composition of judges handling cases involving suspended Chief Justice Gertrude Torkonoo. We'll hear from him shortly, but first, let's analyze how the reconstitution of the panel hearing the injunction application against the CJ suspension decided that particular case. Now, this is because all three new Supreme Court judges who were added to the re-empaneled court to hear the application by MPP MP for Otafo Vincent Asifwa to rescind the suspension of the Chief Justice voted against the application, while the two judges who were part of the original panel voted to rescind the suspension. Now, my colleague and our legal affairs, team member, Kweku Asante, has joined me via Zoom with some details on this particular story. Kweku, first off, who are the judges empaneled by Gertrude Torkonoo before she was suspended? Kweku, I want to find out from you to help us understand who the judges that Gertrude Torkonoo empaneled before she was suspended. Okay, so we'll try and get Kweku here so we can understand how the initial panel went about and how the new one was reconstituted and how they all voted. Kweku, help us understand who were members of the initial panel that was put together by Chief Justice Gertrude Torkonoo.
Hello, Grace. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
So I was explaining that before the Chief Justice was suspended, in fact, Godfrey Debo Adame, on the instructions of the client, Vincent Asifwa, filed an action at the Supreme Court. The basis of the claim was that the Chief Justice had not been given copies of the petitions for her removal, and so they wanted the Supreme Court to strike out the entire process and then declare it as unconstitutional, because in their view, the Chief Justice ought to be given copies of the petition before a prima facie determination will be made. When that case was filed, the Chief Justice was still at post, Gertrude Torkonoo, and then she empaneled 5 judges to hear this matter. The panel was to be presided over by Justice Professor Henrietta Mensah. The other members of the committee were Samuel Esiedu Adibu, Ernest Yao Gaiwu, Yao Asaridakun, and Richard J. Frimpong. These were the 5 judges who were going to hear this matter. And we know that they did go to court the first time the case was adjourned. On the second time as well, it was adjourned again. If you look at these 5 judges, following the determination of a prima facie case by the President and the Council of State, the President appointed Justice Samuel Adibu Asiedu as part of the committee that will investigate the matter. Some would say that it's not really because of that she had to actually recuse himself from that panel. So the judges, again, for the sake of emphasis, before I move on to the next point, was Professor Henrietta Mensah, Samuel Adibu, Ernest Gaiwu, Yao Dakwasar, and Richard J. Frimpong. As soon as the Chief Justice was suspended, we know that the Member of Parliament for Otafo, again, through his lawyer, Godfrey Dame, filed another action at the Supreme Court, seeking to get the court to rescind the President's power to suspend the Chief Justice in this matter. But this time around, it was the acting Chief Justice who was at the helm of the judiciary in terms of empaneling. As we've now come to know from details from the court yesterday, Justice Bafuboni did repanel this court. And he removed Samuel Asiedu from the panel, Yao Dakwansari and Richard J. Frimpong from the panel. And then added himself, of course, as the presiding member, Justice Johnny Kulendi and Justice Amadou Tanko. So the original 5 judges who Justice Torkonoo empaneled, now it was left with 2 of them on the new panel. That is Justice Gaiwu and then Justice Henrietta Mensah. When the court ruled yesterday, affirming the president's power to suspend the Chief Justice, the 3 new judges that had now joined the panel, who had become new members of the panel, that is the acting Chief Justice for Bafuboni, Justice Johnny Kulendi and Amadou Tanko, voted one way. They voted the same way to say that the petition or the application for injunction ought to be dismissed. And then the 2 on the original panel that Gertrude Torkonoo had actually empaneled to hear these matters, that is Justice Henrietta Mensah and Justice Ernest Gaiwu, also voted the same way to say that the Chief Justice ought to be reinstated and that they find favor in the argument that has been made by Godfrey Dame in court that the president ought to have, of course, published a CI and all the legal arguments that is made. Also interested is that the judges, in fact, when this case started, and yesterday Latif brought out these details from the court, Godfrey Dame moved an application sort of to ask the acting Chief Justice for Bafuboni to recuse himself. That was unanimously dismissed. So these are some of the intricacies that the 2 who were left on the old panel voted the same way. Those were the 2 that were put on that panel by the former or the suspended Chief Justice voted the same way. And the 3 who were added by the acting Chief Justice, including himself, also voted the same way.
I'm grateful to you, Kweku, for the breakdown there. Now, this issue is what the retired Justice of the Supreme Court, Justice William Atuguba, has been reacting to, and he's been tearing into the MPP's poster on the matters involving the suspension of the CJ. Now, he has taken aim at the party at what he described as selective outrage by political actors, arguing that the MPP's past conduct undermines its current criticism. He's been speaking to my colleague Elton Broby.
How were they when they were in office? How did they perform? Transparently? Neutrally? In the interest of the people? Did they do that? What? This is the kind of thing I just hate. Pure hypocrisy. Apart from hypocrisy, I mean, the exclusion of honesty, of public interest in our political space. It's very, very troubling. Very troubling. Saying these things before the elections, when on social media it was a common thing describing the court as
Unanimous FC.
Unanimous FC. Was it President Mahama who was doing that? They were in power. When those publications, what steps were they taking? You look at the trend, public perception, unanimous FC. Was it happening or not? Now look at the empanelments and see if that panel had not been reconstituted. I think it would have come true too. I mean, have you not had unanimous until?
And he's, tonight revealing to us how politics has entered into the apex court. Now, he's been criticizing the MPP or fighting the removal of Chief Justice for their own parochial interests. Listen to him as he affirms that the apex court has now been politicized.
Yes, take time and go and get the panels on constitutional cases since these people came to power. I mean, what is the impression then? So long as Torkonoo puts panels that give unanimous decisions in their favor, that is justice, isn't it? If it is valid, it goes ahead and hey. I mean, that's the scenario. That's the scenario. That's pretentious. It's not even pretentious. It is blatantly unacceptable. Even the very events happening. see that there's a deep political element. Why is the NPP and they are championing this cause like that?
They say they are defending democracy.
That's democracy. Because when she's there, it is okay, unanimous panels always in their favor. That's democracy. That's the democracy they want to entrench. I've seen that scanning through the events in the courts. That is rubbish. That is, I don't know what word to use. You ordain a dictatorship in place. You have been overthrown through the ballot. Your last citadel is the Chief Justice. You are battling. Hey, if this one falls, we are all out. That is what is happening. That's how I see it. I can't be wrong, but that's how I see it.
Then it will appear that our Supreme Court is politicized.
Certainly.
But that is not good for a healthy democracy.
Certainly not. And look, the variation of the panel, I would have. Look, at the time of the unanimous FC, what was happening? Bafuboni, Kulendi, Waman, this man who was coming, Tanko. These were fairly senior judges. How often did they get onto constitutional panels? How often? Why was it so? Were they not members of the Supreme Court?
This is still top story. Time for us to bring in Professor Bafo Agyeman-Duah, who is former UN Senior Governance Advisor. Grateful to you, sir, for coming in. Now, tonight, we are getting the revelation that politics is deep-seated in the affairs of the Supreme Court. How does that impact, governance in this country?
Well, first of all, this is not a revelation. It's nothing new. Most people have already observed that our apex course has become political. And that, I think it doesn't speak well of our democracy. But once the judiciary becomes politicized, then its neutrality as a mediator, ultimate mediator in governance matters concerning the Constitution will be diminished. And I don't think that's what we want to see. But you see, the bigger issue, why we think it has become political, is because the Constitution allows the president to meddle in the affairs of the judiciary. You notice that recently somebody produced a list of appointees by President Akufo-Addo, the former president, trying to make the point that the president has packed the court, and therefore the NDC coming to power should find a way to unbalance it, or at least make it more balanced. Okay? That is a political reaction to that situation. So if now we are going to have a situation where every governor, a new president, will have to decide on how many to appoint in order to create a balance, then of course the judiciary becomes a political tool at the behest of presidents. And that is not a good democracy needs. So for me, we have to look, and I'm happy the president has set up the Constitutional Review Committee. We have to find a way to isolate the appointment and removal of chief justices and perhaps the whole court from president, from whoever is the president. Because if you look at the trend of our politics, the rivalry, the competition between the NDC and NPP appears to be carrying on into the other branches of government. And that will defeat the independence that supposedly each of the three arms of government must have in order to have a proper balance of power among the three. I'm talking about the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. So my thinking is that to avoid this situation becoming worse, we need to quickly, that's why I say I'm happy that at least there's a process to review the Constitution. That section of the Constitution should be reviewed. And I think we have to find some genius ways. Some countries, we can cite example like Kenya, they don't have a president appointing Supreme Court judges or the Chief Justice. So we can learn from that so that we can insulate the judiciary from any possibility of political interference by the executive.
But as we wait for that to happen, because it will take some time, how can the judiciary itself do away with this tag of being politicized?
I don't think the judiciary has accepted that it's been politicized. It is observers and people who are not happy.
But today we have a former, Supreme Court judge alluding to the fact that politics plays a deep role in the affairs at the Supreme Court. Isn't that worrying?
In fact, being there before, if he's making that statement, then I think it's a tragedy, to say the least, with regard with the administration of law in our country. If, in fact, the justices of the Supreme Court see themselves as politically influenced in cases, then I think they have undermined their own credibility and relevance to a democratic governance. So I would like to think that Justice Atuguba's opinions are simply personal to him. I don't want to believe that all the other justices think that way.
So his analysis is based on, he was referring to how paneling were done during Chief Justice Torkonoo's era, and you hear him allude to the fact that yes, you cannot take away politics from that fact, and that's what I want to find out. How, even though the judiciary has not accepted that tag, but once people have that opinion, it impacts how they relate to the judiciary. So how can they react to this?
Well, that's something the judiciary, the justices should deal with. I cannot sit out here and prescribe for them what to do.
Okay.
But if they believe that that's the popular perception, then they must accept that they have a problem. Okay? They have a problem if that perception is acceptable to them.
Okay.
And they will have to find a way to purge themselves of that. Because they don't purge themselves from that perception, then I'm afraid that it's going to be an appendix to the executive. And that is not what the Constitution wants it to be.
I'm grateful to you, Prof, for spending some time with us here on Top Story. Professor Bafo Agyeman-Duah is former UN Senior Governance Advisor. Let me bring in Frank Davis. He's Chairman, Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee of the NPP. We also have on the line Abraham Amaliba, Director of Conflict Resolution of the NDC. Mr. Davis, I'm grateful to you for joining us here. Now, this is a former retired Justice of the Supreme Court who says your party does not have the moral right to criticize how empaneling is done to deal with matters at the Supreme Court. What's your response?
Thank you for the opportunity and a good evening to well-meaning, discerning Ghanaians, or distinguished viewers and esteemed listeners. I am saddened. I am really saddened. And I would have wished that Justice Atuguba would stay quietly in his retirement and not doing this with the judiciary, an institution which made him, at least once upon a time, he was acting Chief Justice. And for him to come on radio and rubbish run down the judiciary in this manner, it's pretty unfortunate. It is sad. And at this stage, I want to quote my grandson. My grandson in UK, anytime you talk to him, he's a grandpa. Don't say that. Don't do that. Don't say that. Don't do that. Justice Atuguba, don't do this. So Justice Atuguba is now telling us, I didn't say it, he is now telling us that the Supreme Court is politicized. That is his language. Just because of what? And the language that Atuguba uses on radio, rubbish and all that. I mean, for a justice of the Supreme Court, I mean, I hold him in very high regard. At least I've sat on the General Legal Council with him for so many years. And I've enjoyed the scholarship. I have learned so much from him. And those of us who practice in the Supreme Court hold him in very high esteem. I would rather pray that Justice Atuguba will stop these commentaries. Look, he has shown clearly to everyone that he's politically biased with the NDC. But let me ask you a question. So Justice Atuguba is trying to say, tell all Ghanaians, now he's come up openly, that in the 2013 election petition, when he was president of the bench, he presided. So the 5-4 decision which was handed, he was in the majority himself, with great respect to Justice Bafoboni, acting Chief Justice, was another. Sule Badegbe, may he rest in perfect peace, was another. Vida Akoto Banjo was another. And Justice Ademia, who is now a member of the 8-member Constitution Review Commission set up by...
But his argument and his worry has to do with how regular the Supreme Court delivered unanimous, decisions.
Can you let me talk and not be saying what you're saying?
No,
can you let me talk?
No, I'll let you talk. You're talking, but I'm saying...
Yes, I'm coming to that point, so just listen to me and don't take away my time, please.
No, but we're having a discussion here. So, I mean, when we're having a discussion, I listen to you, you also listen to me, with all due respect.
Wait, so let me build my argument, please.
Yeah, you can build it, yeah.
Yes. So, because it was an NDC government, and they handed a 5-4 decision, Justice Atuguba is trying to tell us that panel was NDC influence.
That's not his argument. His argument is that during the immediate past, time, we've seen too many unanimous decisions at the Supreme Court, and he is questioning why was that the case. I mean, if you look at what happened just now, we had a 3-2, decision. He believes yes, that's how it should be.
Let me answer you. Don't try to ask your own questions and answer. Let me answer you.
No, but we're having a discussion here. So when you're talking, I have the right also, as I listen to you, to ask you the question, so you answer.
So I'm answering your question. Now, he says recently there have been unanimous decisions. But come on, Justice Atuguba. So if a matter is taken to the Supreme Court and the justices are of the opinion, they all agree that this matter is not worth their consideration, and they return a unanimous verdict, it means the justices in the Supreme Court have been bought. Is that what Mr. Atuguba, Justice Atuguba, is saying of his colleagues? Now, Justice Amadou Tanko, my great friend, Yoni Kulendi, my great friend, Bafoboni, I've practiced in their course from the High Court to the Court of Appeal and now in the Supreme Court. So Justice Atuguba, by the strength of his logic, because the panel was reconstituted and the 3 judges rejoined the panel, Tanko, Yoni Kulendi, and Bafoboni, because they returned a verdict in a ruling in the majority, and the other 2 were in the minority, by his strength of logic. These 3 justices are NDC influenced judges. You see, Justice Atuguba sometimes, when he does these things, he puts the judges in a very bad situation. And he should just be at home and enjoy his retirement. Now, he is trying to paint them with the brush. That what he said was that if the panel had not been reconstituted, would we have had the 3-2 budget? Excuse me, Justice Atuguba, stop doing this to the judiciary. Okay. Now, this chorus about unanimous decisions and that when Justice Torkonoo was Chief Justice, she's been suspended now, she was empaneling justices who always retain. That is simply not true. The unanimous FC accolade was coined the last 2020 election petition. At that time, Justice Kwesi Niyebwa was the Chief Justice. It wasn't Torkonoo.
Okay. All right.
And even on that panel, the justices that he has called out were part of that panel. Now, let me tell you something. Justice Tanko, Justice Yoni Kulendi, and Justice Pasubani, they have been sitting on panels of the Supreme Court. We practice in the Supreme Court. We have been seeing them. Now, Kulendi...
Well, he made reference to constitutional matters, but grateful to you. Let me bring in Abraham Amaleba here. He's Director of Conflict Resolution of the NDC. Abraham, I'm grateful to you for being with us here. Now, is it enough to use just, a court delivering unanimous decisions to say, well, it means that they were doing the bidding of a certain side?
But if I may ask, how come 4 or 5 people or 6 people, sometimes 7 and 9, think alike? How is that possible? That anytime there's a case before them, a constitutional matter or a political matter, these 9 persons who have been empaneled will all think alike.
But their reasoning differ. Even though they will agree to go on, they will agree either to say this case has merit or not. But the reasoning they will give in the substantive judgment is not the same.
But I'm saying that you cannot have a situation where 7 people or 9 people on a panel would come to one conclusion all the time. Not half of the time, not some of the time. And when he was talking, just that Atuguba is a citizen of this country and would at any time speak out. I do not think that if somebody is speaking out the truth, that person should be gagged. Consider the last petition, election petition. Any application brought by Chachishkata was dismissed. Can you tell me in your heart of hearts that Chachishkata got all these applications wrong? The man who taught them as lawyers, his application, he can't even get one application right. So, I agree with Justice Atuguba that the Apex Court has been politicized. However, for us to have an efficient and effective justice delivery system, there's a need to purge the judiciary of this accolade. And I think that time is now to begin to ensure that these things do happen.
So will the MPP also be right to describe the new people that the president is nominating to the Supreme Court to say they are going to do the president's bidding?
That is not true, because if you look at these judges, they were actually appointed by the MPP. But why were they sidelined? They were sidelined because they had independent thought of mind. The only person who was not appointed by the MPP is Scott Palmer, Justice Palmer, he's the only one who was not appointed by the MPP. So if these 3 came in from the MPP appointment and gave this verdict, it's a clear indication that these are independent-minded judges.
I was even referring to the 7 new judges that the president has nominated to join the Supreme Court.
No, but these are judges who were already at the Court of Appeal. And we are all aware that these are judges who were made to mark time. These are judges who were overlooked, who were sidestepped. And now the right things are being done by promoting them to the Supreme Court. Okay,
all right. I'm grateful to you. But that's Abraham Amaleba there of the NDC. This has been Top Story brought to you by Telecel and Holy Insecticide Spray and Coil. I am Samuel Kojo Braze. Up next is Newsnight.
Tonight, a 120-day social contract verdict as the main opposition MPP scores John Mahama 46% ahead of the president's national address on his achievements in the last 120 days.
Will be broadcasting to the nation, and he meant every word that he said to the people of Ghana.
If you put it together, the yes, if it is 12, that's about 46%. Which university lecturer will give you 46% and you will pass the exam?
We have an independent assessment of the social contract, plus hear your own verdict.
Because we keep running around in circles and we'll just come back to the same point.
Also tonight, it's deadline day for all government appointees to file their asset or get fired. Tonight, we find out who is in and who is out. As some appointees confirmed to Joy News, they have finally met the deadline.
So I was able to declare mine yesterday. I actually did it yesterday.
Yes, long ago.
What constituted the delay?
Oh, I think it was just some 1 or 2 things I had to make sure that it was on the form. So that's how come there was a little bit of delay.
Details as retired Supreme Court Judge Justice Atuguba cautions the president against sacking defaulting appointees.
You are a president, you don't take care, you are too strict and mechanical, and you can be pushed to even sacrifice your good material on things like this. Every provision has its purpose. What's the purpose of the declaration of the assets?
And in business, declining food prices push April inflation to 21.2% as the fiscal service signals further reduction in the rate in the coming months.
And in sports, Thomas Partey returns for Arsenal against Inter Milan as they look to overturn the 1-goal deficit for a place in the final against Inter Milan. Well, they play PSG tonight.
You want to stay with us. Plus, why is the cedi performing wonders against the dollar and other currencies in the last few weeks? We have an analysis.
The notable performance we've had has been supported by the significant accumulation in gold reserves. As a result of our domestic gold purchase program, we've also had significant foreign exchange purchases.
You want to stay with us, plus your views and comments, 05511119997. Details after this.
See, I beg, fix me go betete Ghana. No gari, no oil, no plantain, just beans then eggs.
Hey, brah, that be dangerous combination, no?
Problem no day. I feel handle am.
For Telecel, with the Bob say everybody gets what they like. That be why Made For Me bundles day. Based on your usage, you fit get your own data and call packages. Fala! Made For Me bundles like the way you the want them. That *530#, then buy Made For Me bundles today.
Telecel. Connecting energies.
Brush your teeth every day and night. Up and down and all around. Brush your teeth and bright. Brush your teeth. Brush with mom and dad. Underneath and in between. Brush the germs away.
Pepsodent. Cavity protection.
This
advert is FDA approved.
Couldn't sleep at night. Mosquitoes will be whining my ears, bugging me all night long. Till I got a remedy. Now I'll be spraying them away with holy insecticide spray. Me I go spray them away with holy insecticide spray. When I sleep, me dana with holy insecticide spray.
Holy mosquito coil, holy multi-purpose insecticide spray. Ghana Kron Kron. For bulk purchase, call 0302-681582. This advert is FDA approved.
Unbelievable is yours to own with DSTV. Get unbelievable local entertainment with Shaka Lemba, Nigerian Idol, and Big Brother Niger.
Unforgettable night.
Catch unbelievable sporting moments from the Premier League, La Liga, F1, and more.
Absolutely sensational.
Laugh along with unbelievable kids' edutainment like Paw Patrol. And experience unbelievable international shows like Law & Order and Lioness Special Ops.
Let's go!
Download the My DSTV app today and own the unbelievable.
So live your news night is on Joy 99.7 FM. President Mahama set himself a target to achieve 25 key indicators in his first 120 days in office. Well, tonight is the deadline, and he is set to address the nation from scrapping the e-levy and betting tax to eliminating the COVID-19 levy. Mahama pledged swift action in just 2 hours, he'll face the nation. The MPP isn't waiting. They've already delivered a verdict, branding his performance a failure. We'll hear their position on the particular matter and the public reactions pretty shortly. But first, what exactly did President Mahama promise, and has he kept his word? Caleb Ziblim is with our research desk and joins us in the studio right now. Caleb, let's go through the list.
So he has nominated his cabinet ministers within the first 14 days. He has constituted the leanest government we've seen for the past few years, established a code of conduct for government officials, and within that code of conduct, he also banned political appointees from purchasing state assets. Also, he held a national economic dialogue, allocated seed money for the Women's Development Bank, launched the Uproar program, the National Apprenticeship program, and the 1 million coders program as well. He has also established the Accelerated Export Development Council. Also, he held a consultative conference on education, implemented the no academic fees policy for first-year students, introduced the Ghana Medical Trust Fund, or the Mahama Cares, distributed free sanitary pads to female students, and also launched the Black Star Experience for tourism.
Okay, so these are the promises in the social contract that has fully been achieved.
Yes.
In the last 120 days.
In the last 120 days.
How many are they?
We have 13 of them out of the 25.
So 13 of them completely achieved.
Yes.
So that's executed.
Exactly.
And then you also have some in progress. How many?
We have 7 of them in progress. And they are the scrapping of the draconian taxes, as he called it, which is the e-levy, COVID levy, and betting tax. He has scrapped the e-levy, betting tax, and emissions levy, but the COVID levy remains outstanding. Also, prepare a 24-hour economy policy implementation. That was mentioned in the 2025 budget, but that has not been implemented. Also, yes, he says you compensate flood victims in Uti, Bono East, and the Savannah regions. These were budgeted in the 2025 budget, but no compensation has been made yet. Also, pro-VRA and Pong Down spillage impacts. The Energy Ministry has set up a committee, but then there's no reports out yet. Also, reopen investigations into unresolved criminal cases. We have seen some headway in the murder of investigative journalist Ahmed Swale, but then that's it. Also, conduct forensic audits on financial mismanagement cases. Again, we've seen some headway in some of the cases involving the National Signals Bureau boss, but then that ends it there. And also, ban illegal mining and activities in forest reserves. We've seen the amendments of the LI 2462, but then that has not been repealed entirely. However, he has launched the Tree for Life and Blue Water initiatives.
Okay, but there's some that they have failed to touch.
And yes, we have 5 of them. And they are review taxes on imported vehicles and equipment for industry and agric. This has not been done. We also have reviewed the Customs Act to allow salvaged vehicle imports. Again, this has not been done. Restructure loss-making SOEs for profitability. Again, we've seen some headway in the ECG privatization conversation, but there again, this has not been done. Also, streamline government scholarship administration. The education minister says they would introduce a bill in parliament, but again, this has not been done. And finally, pair security agencies of militia and vigilante elements. We've not heard anything publicly from that.
Let's look at the percentages now. Has he achieved?
So from our checks, he has achieved 52%. That's a little about half of it, but however, he has not achieved all of them.
Okay, so let's break it down. So for those that we have checked and we can say he has achieved, that comes down to in percentage terms?
52%.
52%. And those that we can say are in progress?
Well, that's 28%.
And then those they fail to achieve?
That's 20%.
Okay, so that's a breakdown from our own perspective. And if you want to join us on PMX, we have a special show that will begin with the coverage of the President's own address to the nation on his 120-day social contract. We are partnering with Imani. They have a report on the 120-day social contract that we will be launching and analyzing. We'll hear the president assess himself, and then we'll do an independent analysis of that based on a thorough, detailed work that our partners Imani had done. You want to join us for that on PM Express. We're going to be joined by civil society, but also be joined by the MPP, the Alternative Voice, and we'll be joined by Felix Kwachifusu too. So tonight is a special conversation, and already the verdicts are flying in. We're going to be hearing from the MPP pretty shortly, but we're also hearing on the economy from Professor Stephen Adai, who's a former GIMPA rector, who has delivered the following verdict on the economic performance of the government in the last 120 days.
In the economy, so far, I think that he must be commended for the steps that he has taken, how sustainable it is, but one has to wait. But I think that the depreciation of the cedi has been arrested. I think that even though to some extent artificially done, and there's a sign as an economist, some dichotomy or disjoint between fiscal and monetary policies. But look, all governments learn on the job, even though he claims to be of experience. The type of economic situation he's in, his experience is almost useless because you have never had this haircut before. So better be humble and learn. But I believe that they have the capacity of reconciling both the economic, the physical, and monetary policies. We are these specific things, deliverables, when it comes to education, a lot of noise, and also in the health area, Mahama cares. We can do it for a short time on a sustainable basis. The whole health system should be addressed. And I think that they must be humble to build upon the past government's initiatives.
Well, the main opposition MPP, they have a completely different view on this. Listen to the Deputy General Secretary, Haruna Mohammed, delivering their own verdict.
The Ghanaian people will agree with we, the MPP, with respect to the assessment of John Mahama's 320 days. Nobody forced him. He gave us about 26 promises. I heard your analyst gave explanation to some of the areas and considering them done. He talked about the no academic fee policy. It is not done. Go to the schools and ask the persons who are attending the schools. No single university student fee has been paid. First year student, nobody has been paid. Nobody has been refunded to.
Right.
Again, the free tertiary education for persons with disability. No person with disability fee has been paid. Nobody. And I am very surprised that in all these assessments, that people are saying he has done well. I've heard the university lecturer talking about it. I've also heard
the economist,
right?
Yes,
the economist. They talk about it.
Right.
They are talking about averagely their performance on the economy. How can these people perform on the economy when a growth of economy of 5.7 is handed to them?
But Mr. Haruna, at least the promises, 25 of them in the first 120 days, at least many of them have been achieved so far. Is that not good?
Let me give you some fair analysis of this particular instance. In analyzing the 25, it's not 25, it's 26. He has 26 policies for the first 120 days, 26. And if you look at it, those that they have done partially, but if you are fair, just to give to them, is 7. If you can say, okay, yes, we'll give you 12, and then the no's are 7. If you put it together, the yes, if it is 12, that's about 46%. Which university lecturer will give you 46% and you will pass the exams? In which university in the world that you will get 46% and you will get a pass mark?
So that's a view of the MPP there. I want to quickly bring in Professor Godfred Bokwing, is a professor of finance at the University of Ghana. Anthony Morrison is the CEO of the Chamber of Agribusiness. Before we hear them, though, many of you have also been delivering your own verdict because really the social contract is a contract with you, the people. I want to take you to the Ashanti region. A few residents commended the president's efforts so far. Some also admitted that the promised change hasn't reflected in their wallets just yet.
Pacho, Oba 4 months in Oba be betting tax free. Emma you say, was sent a question at Bim. Nema walk or sort and easy my more than and nobody Kojo tired. Think it's in 50 cities. I can get a knack as you 50 cities. And more than And this no promises that woman name my emle or but it's in your master and yes, I know. Into a bear all share. Now on my name, Munyemle, mine, and name and go my cry, name one thing.
Right. She feels that the abolished taxes have been, been introduced in a certain forms that are making life very difficult for her as a trader. But I'll engage more people to ascertain their assessment. How do you assess the president's 120 days in office?
First of all, I think he's trying, and then secondly, there are particular things that I feel he's not addressing well concerning the issue of the reversal of the law that allows mining in forest reserves. Measures have been put in place to restore our waters and our reserves, but the law itself that stops the law itself that allows mining to still go on has not been reversed, so which is the major problem. I feel like if we don't reverse the law first, then it is a useless thing we are doing, because we'll keep running around in circles and we'll just come back to the same point. So first of all, the president should focus on reversing that law that allows mining in forest reserves, and then move on to restoring our waters and our forest reserves.
That is a citizen sharing opinion and distress over the mining laws that have not been abolished as promised by the president. What do you also make of 120 days of President John Dramani Mahama's office?
All right, I think first of all, his commitment to sign a 120-day social contract with Ghanaians is a good sign that he's going to deliver.
Professor Godfrey Bokwing is a professor of finance and at the University of Ghana. Anthony Morrison, CEO of the Chamber of Agribusiness, both of them join me now. Prof, let me start with you. As far as the economy is concerned, in the last 120 days, how will you, I know you are a professor, so let's start first with the score. What will be your score?
Evans, well, let me give my reasons, and then hopefully, if I'm able to arrive at a score, then that is it. But I want us to adopt a more a kind of a humility in how we understand how the 120 day has gone. 20 days have gone essentially, because there's still suffering in the system. If you want to assess the 120-day social contracts in terms of how this has impacted people's lives, then the gap is very wide. The gap is very wide. Yes, of course, we can understand that it will take a while before some of these interventions would manifest explicitly in the lives of Ghanaians.
I mean, you made that point about reflecting in people's lives. How about the scrapping of the e-levy, the scrapping of the 10% betting levy, the emissions levy? Those ones have a direct impact on your pocket, does it not?
Yes, so you want to also, yeah, I agree with you. You want to look at things in proportional terms as well. So, for instance, I believe that in the 120-day social contract, there are some low-hanging fruits that, with better implementation, we can say they have checked the box. I'll give you an example. The commitment to pay first-year fees, I think it shouldn't take this long. There wasn't clarity as to how that will be tracked. And at what point would we say it has been done? Because has it reflected in the lives of those beneficiaries? I don't think it has. And to the extent that the target, the intended target, hasn't been reached, you cannot say you have delivered. You have delivered. Then again, when it comes to, people with disability and the rest of them, and all of that. So it's also more about implementation and clarity as to how this ought to be assessed. But then when it comes to, let's say, the environment, I think I hold a different view that the president hasn't done well in the area of environmental integrity. I believe that the agency that we were expecting because this is an existential threat. Existential threat. This shouldn't be the approach. This shouldn't be the approach in addressing existential threats. So from that point of view, I think that my score for the president is very, very low. I believe that there were low-hanging fruit in that space, revoking the LI, declaring state of emergency, right, and all of that. To the extent that all of this having been done, and we cannot say that we have actually put a stop to irresponsible, including illegal mining. I don't think we can say we have put a stop to that. And the biggest threat to our common future today is irresponsible.
Hold that thought for me, and I'll return to you to get that score based on your overall assessment of how the economy has performed the last 120 days. But let me bring in Anthony Morrison. Mr. Morrison, so I see in the 120-day social contract, one part of it that has a direct bearing on your sector, the agri sector. The point 3 says review taxes on imported vehicles and equipment for industry and agriculture. That we have it down as not touched at all. It hasn't been completed. It's not even one you can say they are currently implementing or in progress. It hasn't been touched. Give me your assessment. Oh, I have lost him there. Since I have lost him, Prof will now have a shorter time to give me a score. He's been marking the president in the last few minutes. Prof, do you have a score yet based on your overall assessment?
I wanted to give my reasons so that perhaps you can understand my score
where you're landing.
eventually.
Okay, if you don't mind wrapping up the reasons for me, then land on the score.
Yes, when it comes to scrapping those taxes, of course, with the exception of COVID-19 health levy, which I think should have been done much earlier, and all of that, I think that the president has done quite well in those areas. Then again, when it comes to consolidating confidence in the economy and the signal in terms of the kind of leadership we were expecting, of course, given what has happened in the last 2.5 years and all of that, I think the president has done quite well from that angle. But of course, if you look at where we have come from, especially with the fiscal outcome from 2024 election and all of that, I think the president is showing leadership in terms of fiscal discipline in the midst of tax cuts, expenditure cuts and all of that, a lean government and all of that. But I think overall, I'll put it at just around 52%, right? 52%. I'm not looking at it in terms of counts, but of course, I'm weighing the evidence as well. I think that is good to start with. But let's also understand it that there are constraints, and some of those constraints will require a bit of time to be able to address them. If you look at fight against corruption, the president's bold decision about even sacking ministers for non-compliance with the asset declaration. I think we haven't seen things like this in the last couple of years and all of that. But it's still a long way to go. But if we are also looking at whether we have seen transformative interventions in the last 120 days, I would say no, because the policy on 24-hour economy is yet to be launched. And all of that, we've seen the other interventions, Jumera, Akukon Ketenkete, and the rest of them. But to the extent that, and then again, you want to also situate all of these interventions within the broader budget space. If you look at the shock therapy that has been applied to the 2025 budget, that limits government in terms of how they can spend in the critical sectors of the economy to stimulate growth. So if you look at it carefully, government is operating at around 60%, right? If you look at allocations to ministries, it's gone down drastically. So we are doing things in the immediate, more or less for short-term praise. But we have to be mindful that we are not sacrificing our medium to long-term survivability for short-term praise.
Yeah, and Prof, your score is 52%. I'm curious, in today's academic terms, what grade is 52%?
Hello?
The grade, 52%, is it a pass?
Yeah, that's a pass.
That's a pass,
And
okay.
I think it's a good to start with. Yeah.
Okay. Prof, thank you very much. That's Professor Godfrey Bokping there, giving John Mahama a pass, 52%, which, by the way, aligns with our own independent analysis that we brought to you earlier, 52%, based simply on the number of promises made, how many has been achieved so far, how many still in progress, and how many they haven't touched. One of them they haven't touched is the one that deals with agriculture, and Anthony Morrison is back with me on the line. He is the CEO of the Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana. Mr. Morrison, thanks for your time here on Newsnight. There's a part of this that I was recounting earlier, review taxes on imported vehicles and equipment for industry and agriculture. We have that down as not achieved. What's your own assessment of the 120 days as it relates to your industry?
Well, thank you very much, Ernest. So the Chamber has been following the removal of taxes on certain critical agricultural machinery. We are, in fact, in touch with the military, and we have been engaging them. I remember they also having this discussion with the GRA boss on the guideline of the National Economic Dialogue. Overall, I think that it's been a fruitful discussion so far. They are looking at the modalities, but one thing we're told is that this will be integrated into the agribusiness of the Ministry of Trade. So we are waiting to see the new agribusiness policy and also the strategy, how it's going to be implemented. Our last engagement with the minister last week shows that there will be a national dialogue on agribusiness to look at the policy and the strategy. And I must say that the Chamber is very much grateful for the fact that we are going to look at a national agribusiness policy and also a national agribusiness implementation strategy.
So I hear you say that as far as the 121 days are concerned, in terms of implementing the policies that will advance your sector, you are yet to see movement, but you have assurances that conversations will be done about broader policy objectives.
Certainly, because some of this can be done outside the policy environment. It must align with the policy, the national strategy, and also the present vision for the country. So we believe strongly that with the establishment of the integration of the agribusiness into the Ministry of Trade, this is going to fast track the implementation and also work on the removal of some of these nuisance taxes in the agriculture sector.
If I ask you to give me a score, what will your score be as far as the agri sector is concerned? Assessing the president's performance in the last 120 days.
Well, I will look at the launching of the Ghana Feed program. I will look at this week's launching of the committee to work on the accelerated export. I will also look at the fact that within the budget, the agriculture sector has been given some strong support. So, in fact, it will be some B plus. I would like to give to the government. B plus in the sense that the current environment for the sector, and Evans, most especially, we are grinding start of the season. I mean, where in the service sector, the season has kicked. Okay, we doing maize plantation, we're controlling weeds, we're controlling the fall armyworm, but in the northern sector, the season is yet to pick up, waiting for some few rain. So it will only be up to about September to put a better analysis. But on the 120-day social contract, I think a B plus, the president have done a good job.
Okay, so that's a B plus for the Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana. Anthony Morrison is the CEO there. Bokping, who is a professor, gave the president a pass, 52%. One major positive, at least if you listen to the Ghana Union of Traders Association yesterday in the statement that they put out applauding the government for keeping the cedi in very healthy position against the dollar, really, and it has dropped now in terms of the depreciation, has been very stable over the last few weeks, but also has seen the exchange rate stability, but the CD actually appreciating. It's currently now dropped from 16 CD to a dollar. It's now around 13 CD plus to the dollar. We'll be hearing from Guta pretty shortly how this is impacting their business, but I want to bring in my colleague Caleb Ziblim, who's joining me in the studio, still on this matter. We've been looking at what really is accounting for this. Many are looking at it saying this is also happening at a time when traditionally and historically, in a period where the CD is expected to depreciate. There's a lot of pressure in the first quarter, but the CD has held its own and has actually appreciated in some instances. In the last few weeks, it has actually been performing better.
Yeah.
Right? What have we learned are the reasons why we're witnessing this improvement in the CD's performance?
So, Evans, we've identified two main factors that explain the recent strength. The first is a surge in foreign exchange inflows in the first quarter of the year. So gold exports brought in around $2.3 billion in just the first 2 months of the year. And this is Ghana's highest gold-driven forex inflow since 2016. Also, cocoa exports have also seen a major rebound. They brought in around $835 million in the same period, up from roughly $300 million last year. These gains are largely due to record high global gold and cocoa prices. The second is the US dollar itself has been weakening. From January to April, the value of the US dollar has dropped by around 7%. And this is mainly because of the uncertainty in the US. Trump's trade and protectionist policies have spooked investors, and he has suggested replacing the head of the US Federal Reserve. So these signals have raised concerns about a slower US growth and caused investors to shift from the US dollar more towards gold, which has also benefited Ghana because we export a lot of gold. So together, the stronger commodity prices and a softer US dollar has created ideal conditions for the current appreciation we are seeing.
And a further, I guess, factor there, which it also makes the stability and in some cases in the last 1 week or so, the appreciation very interesting, is that around this time is when the government will get the cocoa syndicated loan in. That would have shored up the CD's performance quite strongly. That is not available now.
Yes.
In spite of that, it's still holding firm. And George will join us pretty shortly. I know he's been speaking to the BOG officials, and so he gave us some sense of what this means for us going forward, but also the key question about sustainability of the gains. The head of BOG's Financial Markets Department, Ni Soa Ahulu, confirms to us in this interview, speaking on Beyond the Numbers on the Joy News channel, that the CD's appreciation is due to the central bank's injection of nearly $500 million into the forex market.
The notable performance we've had has been supported by the significant accumulation in gold reserves. As a result of our domestic gold purchase program, we've also had significant foreign exchange purchases from the mines and the international oil companies. We've also had significant inflows from cocoa. We've also had significant and strong inflows from remittances. We've also had some significant corporate FX inflows, which has together, or I would say collectively, supported the CD over the period. Let me indicate that what the bank does is to provide support to significant sectors when there's build-up in demand pressures. So you're right. In April, the demand you see there was coming out of increases in demand from the energy sector, from manufacturing, fast-moving consumer goods, and the like, which is what is accounting for what you see. But significant proportion of it is mostly for the energy sector support to ensure that payments are on track, which provides stability for us on the energy sector, as well as its overall impact on economic growth.
Well, Charles Kusiapia is the head of business and economic bureau at the Ghana Union Traders Association. They issued a statement last night applauding the current government for keeping the cedi very stable at a time when they were expecting it to depreciate. He joins us on the line right now. It is a very rare statement, Apia Kubi, to hear Guta applauding government, especially when it comes to the cedi and its relationship with the dollar. What really is happening on the market that makes you so confident that this is such a positive signal that is affecting your business positively?
Evans, good evening to your listeners, and thank you for the opportunity. Basically, our medium of transaction has been the forest. And some years back, when forest hikes were going high, we were complaining that it was depleting our working capital. And the inflation in the forest market was making it very difficult for business to project and have a predictability into their businesses. But when you observe the forest performance from January up to March, you saw some stability. For us as businesses, stability gives us some respite. And a downward trend of steady gaining strength over the forest is another hope that a certain positive trajectory in the economic environment, which for us is a sign of refinancing our working capital, refinancing our businesses. Over the period, we have said that the private sector is the engine of growth of every economy. But when we are in an environment when forests are performing at TD, it means we are having challenges with our capital. We cannot grow to support the economic rebound. The reverse is that now we can have some capital to apply back into the economy to see economic growth.
Well,
so government can also have a kind of revenue in terms of taxation to meet its economic demand.
How is this reflecting in the price of goods on the market sold by GUTA members?
You see, forest is not the only determinant when it comes to price build-up in the FMCG or the trading market. There are other factors. We're looking at borrowing rates, we are looking at tariffs, and other challenges like the VAT. But if one leg of the economic indicators started doing well, it suggests that they will have positive tendencies on these other indicators.
So have you reduced your prices then?
Currently, yes. There's stability in terms of price in the market. We're hoping that this success that been checked in the forest market will be sustained so that we can see a drop in prices graciously. Because forest is coming down, inflation is also coming down. That suggests that the price of items obviously will come down.
Well, thank you very much. And by the way, arguably, this is possibly one of the biggest positives in the last 4 months. And today, Georgia Face here with me in the studio, the inflation numbers were published
to 21.2% for the month of April.
And then you're just hearing GUTA say prices are now very stable, but they are hoping that this is sustainable over a period so you can actually see prices begin to drop at least from the perspective of their members. The thing about the performance of the cedi is that when it does well and gains ground against the dollar in particular, it affects almost everything. It affects inflation, it affects prices.
Fuel. And if you dig down the numbers, you realize that if you look at prices of some food items, actually, and you do the comparison from last year April to this year April, the rate of increase has actually slowed. If you look at one of the biggest items in the basket, if you look at alcohol and food as well, it went down marginally. And then if you look at prices of petroleum products and all the rest, it went down by more than 1.5%. So you realize that all these pieces of indicators are going down. And that is what we are seeing at the end of the day. You don't just want to put the factor on just one thing. On the cedi, a lot of factors have worked for us. And it's not just one thing. It's it's government doing this. On the fiscal side, you have an IMF program that has put some pressure on government that we are seeing the results in the fiscal area. On the monetary side as well, we shouldn't forget about what Bank of Ghana has done over the past months in terms of their strong gold build-up as well, and all those confidence signals pushing to the market as well, even.
And right after business, we'll tell you which minister has finally managed to declare their assets. Those who may be getting the sack and those who will get a president's nod going forward, because the deadline It was 5 p.m. Just less than 2 hours ago. We'll tell you that after business. George.
Well, events are coming up. Declining food prices pushed April inflation to 21.2% as Statistical Service signals for the reduction in the coming months if government sticks to the current fiscal consolidation measures. And the Ghana Chamber of Commerce and Industry, if there was reduction in prices of goods and services as a result of the city's performance, would be dependent on the local currency's good run being sustained in the coming months. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one stop shop for all your offers, essential scented tanks, and Pepsodent Herbal and Charcoal.
The other day, I visited Kweku at his spunky new office to congratulate him on opening his business. And man, was I impressed. The business is just moving quick. The sales, customers, everything is just working seamlessly. The secret? He said,
it's MTN Business Broadband. In this fast-paced environment, we need fast and reliable internet to support all business types. No laggy online meetings, great download and upload speeds, impeccable business management systems, all inclusive. I mean, you can have it all.
Shout! I signed on immediately.
To enable your business stay ahead and stay connected, make sure you're signed on to the best internet made just for businesses. MTN Business Broadband. Sign up today on broadband.mtn.com.gh and manage your account on my MTN app. Call 0244 308 111 for more information. We are good together everywhere you go.
M&C Group is a leading investment holding company with expertise in minerals and food commodity trading, precious minerals refinery, real estate development, and logistics and energy. With individually registered companies, our headquarters is located in Accra, Ghana, with operational offices in Dubai, UAE, Hong Kong, and Guangzhou in China, Johannesburg in South Africa, Virginia in the USA, and Milan, Italy. We connect business markets and drive growth. Trust us to maximize value in every deal. Call us on 0302 551 917 or 0302 551 918 or send us an email mncgroup@mncgroupgh.com. MNC Group, totally reliant.
Son, we are so proud of you for setting up this hospital. I really love those hospital beds and waiting chairs. By the way, did you import them?
No, Dad, I didn't. I actually got them from Kingdom Books and Stationery right here in Ghana.
Wow. We also bought our office supplies, safes, executive desks, and chairs from Kingdom, and they gave us expert advice on how to set up our office.
Guys, that makes 3 of us. I also got our sofa and bedroom sets, plus our dining hall furniture for our new home from Kingdom.
Wow, Mom, that makes 4 of us. I usually get my stationery items from Kingdom, and my teacher also mentioned that our classroom furniture was provided by Kingdom.
So there you have it. Whenever you're thinking about setting up an office or acquiring furniture for your home, etc., Kingdom Books and Stationery should be your first point of call. With over 40 years experience in the industry, we stock and supply a wide variety of globally sourced office and home furniture, stationery and equipment. Visit our head office, Osu Akwaje, or our office near the Osu Stadium. We're also in Tema Community 1, opposite Olam SHF, Kumasi KNUST campus, UCC Cape Coast, and now at the Marina Mall, Airport City. Or call us 0302 764101, 764209, or 762792. Visit our website www.kingdomgh.com.
Brush your teeth every day and night. Up and down and all around. Brush the clean and bright. Brush your teeth. Brush with mom and dad. Underneath and in between. Brush the germs away.
Pepsodent, cavity protection. This advert is FDA approved.
One night, one stage, one nation's heartbeat, as all the stars in Ghana align to celebrate the biggest night in Ghanaian music, the 26th Telecel Ghana Music Awards. Live, unfiltered, unforgettable, with Kim Promise, Stoneboy, Kweku Smoke, and Press Gifting, Kim Paluta, Famiye, Adina, Beast Trap, Titi Owusu, AEC, Molly, and more.
Live at the Grand Arena, Saturday, May 10th at 7 p.m.
Tickets going fast. 500 Ghana cedis and 700 Ghana cedis at Charter House. Charterhouse or dial *713*33*00#. For limited VVIP, call 050-128-8520 now. The 26th Telecel Ghana Music Awards, produced by Charterhouse, with support from Guinness, TV3, British Council, Closer, KPMG, media partners, and proudly sponsored by Telecel, Connected Energy.
Hello, love.
Hey, hon.
Mother's Day is here again. Anything in mind we could get for our moms?
We'll love to get them something from Woodin.
Good choice.
This Mother's Day, show your mom some love with our stunning fabrics or ladies' wear and get a lovely gift on us. Offers available at all Woodin retail shops and partner shops nationwide from the 5th to the 16th of May 2025. Terms and conditions apply.
Woodin, le créateur.
Ça soit beau. Sasso, sasso, c'est comme un tonton précon. Sasso, sasso, c'est comme un tonton précon. Edrana drami ne buseshe. Yeah, hakasiare malaria. Minya me pone me sasso spray. Every
In a later development, the new government statistician, Dr. Hassan Idrisu, has maintained that the end of the inflation target of 12% by government is achievable, only if it sticks to the current fiscal and monetary measures.
Attempt to consolidate the fiscal. If you look at the primary balance on commitment basis, for example, for 2024, that was a deficit of 3.9%. The government has decided to improve the primary balance on commitment basis from the deficit 3.9%
to what they would describe as artificial measures aimed at stabilizing the Ghana city. But the Bank of Ghana is actually rejecting this. Let's hear from the acting head of financial market at the Bank of Ghana, Mensah Ahulu.
Indicate that what the bank does is to provide support to significant sectors when there's build-up in demand pressures. So you're right. In April, the demand you see there was coming out of increases in demand from the energy sector, from manufacturing, fast-moving consumer goods, and the like, which is what is accounting for what you see. But a significant proportion of it is mostly for the energy sector support.
Mensah Ahulu is the acting head of financial markets at the Bank of Ghana. Let's still stay on the Ghana city because the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry has maintained that prices of goods and services could be reduced in the coming months if the city's recent performance is sustained. Let's hear from the Chief Executive of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry,
it may not be as immediate. I mean, if you observe what is happening with the interbank and also the forex, you realize that there is a significant difference in prices, which means that the business community are also observing what is going on. So now people are a bit cautious to react to this improvement. I mean, if it's sustainable, then other people obviously will have no option than to transfer this or this improvement being reflected in prices. But
Magbedu Abuaje is the Chief Executive of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. The UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce has reaffirmed this commitment to deepening the trade ties between Ghana and the United Kingdom. Speaking at a networking event hosted by the Chamber, Executive Director Joba Chama said that it will continue to roll out strategic initiatives aimed at supporting Ghana-based members and strengthening the business collaboration across both markets.
First quarter of 2025 has been mixed. So in some ways it's been good. We've been very busy. We've run a number of programs. And so, yes, in that regard, it's been very, very active. It's something that we do at the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce where every quarter we host a fun networking event. In between, we also organize our capacity building programs. Some of them are in person, some of them are virtual. And we also host sector committee meetings where member companies can meet to discuss issues that are affecting their businesses so that we can undertake some advocacy work for them.
Atuguba Chama is the executive director of the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce. Now, if you are a shareholder of MTN Ghana, well, some good news for you is that each share that you're holding now, the close of trading today was up by 8 pesos to close 3 Ghana cedis, 29 pesos. Looks like their solid financial performance is impacting on the share price of MTN Ghana on the Ghana Stock Exchange. And that's all for business on Newsnight. Back to you.
Well,
Evans. Now we are playing. It wasn't yesterday. So Arsenal PSG. Well, Inter, it will be an interesting final.
John, thank you very much. Now, it's known as a tree of life, feeding families, curing illness, and sustaining generations. But in the Upper East region town of Binduri, the baobab tree is dying. In communities like Bansi, changing weather patterns and environmental decline are crippling a tree that once held entire communities together. Today on Climate Focus, Joy News' Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin brings you a story of fading roots, lost livelihoods, and a call for urgent action.
Across the savannas of northern Ghana, the baobab tree towers like an ancient guardian, but today these giants are in distress. In Binduri, especially in the Bansi community, farmers are seeing the trees slowly die and are no longer producing fruits.
When I moved into this house, the flourishing baobab tree was a valuable resource for us. We would harvest its leaves to make nutritious soups. However, over the past 3 years, the tree has struggled with poor fruit production. To make matters worse, whenever it does produce fruit, pests seem to appear, further diminishing its yield. This decline has been concerning, and finding a solution to restore the tree's health and productivity has become a priority.
Baobab leaves are an important part of meals in northern Ghana. The fruit is full of vitamin C, but now some baobab trees have stopped growing leaves.
The baobab tree is no longer yielding enough leaves and fruit. You will need to buy them elsewhere. Additionally, the tree's shade is diminishing and we are unsure what's causing its decline.
Alright, yeah, so economically we will harvest the fruit and sell. People buy the fruit and prepare local drink because of the sour nature of it. Some people use it to prepare teas, others also use it mixed with flour to prepare porridge. So people used to buy, we harvest the fruit and they'll buy. And also the leaves. The leaves also is nutritious. And so people buy it and prepare soup. We'll get money out of it. We'll make money. We used to make money out of it.
Experts say there are many reasons. The weather keeps changing and windstorms happen without warning. Trees that lived for hundreds of years are now falling because they can't fight these problems. Some farmers are asking for help. They want research and protection for one of Africa's most important natural resources. Unless urgent action is taken to steady, restore and protect, the tree of life may become a tree of the past. A report by Mohammed Nuruddin.
Climate Focus is brought to you by Joy News in partnership with Youth Bridge Foundation, bridging gaps for positive youth development, and the Climate Development Knowledge Network.
Well, it's nearly 2 hours since the deadline for all appointees of John Mahama to declare their assets or be sacked. John Mahama 2 months ago gave a strict directive to his appointees to file their assets before 31st of March 2025. It, however, emerged that over 50 of the appointees defied that directive. On Monday, they were given a fresh deadline, 48 hours, that expired at 5 p.m. today. So it's gone now. James Abbott is joining me right now in the studio. James, who are some of the appointees who failed to meet the initial deadline?
Them include presidential staffers Nathan Kofi Boachi, Setekpe, Nanaya Jantua, and Samuel Ofosu Ampofo. Others include ministers Al Hassan Suhene is in that list, Rita Odole Sowa, John Dumelo are all in that list. And thankfully, we've been hearing from John Dumelo as well as the acting registrar for HEFRA, Dr. Ban. They've been telling us that they, as far as they are concerned, they've been able to
in the ink set. But John Dumelo also, did he explain to you